Thank you for downloading this Brum Radio podcast. For more podcasts, visit brumradio.com.
Welcome to the Freak Scene podcast with me, Dave Travis, promoter, photographer and friend to the stars, some of whom pop into the Brum Radio studios for a chat. If you want to listen to the whole show, which includes the music, then pop along to mixcloud.com/Brum Radio. That's Odeon from the lower third, and my guest this week is Micheal Valentine West. Hello.
Hello, David. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, yes. I should say I'm Dave Travis. You're listening to Brum Radio. And we have the legendary Micheal Valentine West. And you've been, I was going to say you've been around a long time, but that's you've been productive for many years is probably a better way of saying it.
Indeed. Thank you.
And I think I first became aware of you in a band called Weird's War.
Ah, yes, indeed.
Was that early 90s?
Yep, that would have been early 90s, in fact, yeah.
But I mean, since then, you've had many incarnations since then. In fact, I've had to write a list. It's apart from Weird's War, there was Twiggy and the K-Mesons, K-Meson, Fourth, Susan, Lower Third, Mikimo Sosumi, and your latest incarnation is Anal Teens.
Ah, yes.
How's that working out for you, name-wise?
Really
Did you have a bit of jip with
hilarious.
that on Facebook?
I did, but it wasn't for what I actually thought it was. But yeah, the Anal Teens thing, it was a deliberate kind of like, let me come up with a name for a band that could possibly get you into trouble if you tried to Google it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's Facebook, when I was trying to promote it, they turned down the ad about 5 times, and I was so angry. I was like going, but it's Anal Teens, it's a play on words, for goodness sake. And they were emailing me backwards and forwards. Turns out what they were actually having a problem with was one of the comments about it, which I added to the listing, contained effing and jeffing, as in like, this is effing great.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, let me just put asterisks on it then.
Yeah.
No, can't do that. Okay, can I use the word shizzle? Shizzle was fine in the end. So yeah, I apologise to the Facebook promotions team profusely.
That's annoying when you're outraged and you find out that the source of your outrage isn't the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you also cover a really wide range of sort of musical styles, don't you?
Yes.
So what would you describe Anal Teens as?
There were several things we were coming up with. Crack house was one.
That's a narrow genre, isn't it? You go into HMV.
Get some crack house.
Crack house.
Yeah. No, it's. I would describe it as left of centre backroom club music. A guy in Germany, he said it's like club music deconstructed.
Yeah.
But in truth, it's just the idea of like the motion is in the editing of the audio, which is kind of like a bit kind of based on Ed Banger Records in Paris, I guess.
Yeah.
That's where the idea first came from.
Yeah.
But it was mainly just to have some fun.
Yeah. I saw you, I think the last time I saw you live was supporting Bentley Rhythm Ace.
Oh, yeah.
The Hare and Hounds. That was a great night, wasn't it?
I had the most fun, man.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen them together as friends for years. And
how did you get that gig? Just because you know
Richard?
Them? Yeah, Richard.
Richard March just got in touch and said, dude, you interested in doing a gig? I'm like, hell yes.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
So I was quite chuffed, really happy at the fact that pretty much nobody who was in the room when I was playing had heard any of my stuff before.
No.
And it went down really well.
Yeah,
people were dancing and
it was a great night. That was overall it was a really good night. And I'd like to say I knew you were supporting, so I went to see, and I wasn't aware of what you were going to do. But it was
Thanks.
In your face, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Difficult at times as well. I think difficult listening.
Yes.
Was that your intention?
No.
Challenging.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think it's particularly that difficult, because
if you're dancing, it was probably better. But
putting it next to some of the stuff that I listen to and stuff. But I know that not all of it is for everybody. And when you'll start playing with different time signatures on top of each other, and atonal music, perhaps that's not going to get somebody jumping around the room.
I loved it. I thought it was mesmerising. It was like that. Do you know what I mean? You just sort of listen to it and you just because it's just you on stage, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's, so you just just concentrate fully on the music.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the thing, though, and it's like you say, it's not meant to be deliberately challenging, but I think as an artist, that is one of the things you are supposed to do. It's one of the remits, as in to challenge yourself. And there's no point making just a bunch of noise. The noise has to have purpose.
Yeah.
But I was really happy with the response.
No, it's good. It was a really good gig. And so we're going to, we've got a couple of hours of music, and we're going to play a representation of what you've done over the years. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I won't have heard a lot of this, and maybe some of the other people won't as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. What should we do next? Should we do is the next on the list? Producer Paul.
Yeah, I reckon.
Cindy, Star City, Your Place.
Okay, we'll do Cindy.
Let's do that.
Cindy.
No, wait 1 second.
We'll just chat while that's loading, shall we?
Yeah, this is probably the first thing I did when one of the first things I did when Weirds War stopped being Weirds War.
So when did you do Weirds War until? Was it 90?
I don't know. I try not to think about that at all anymore. It's no.
That was a great band though, wasn't it? That was one of them in the 90s.
Yes, you know, when it was good, it was fantastic, and we were. I felt we were unbeatable, unstoppable, and if it had carried on, you know, what I had planned next was going to be in my mind. You know, I was looking ahead, but.
Yeah, but that just seems to be what you do, doesn't it? You're looking for something else. Do you know what I mean? It's not staying still or being satisfied with what you're doing creatively.
Oh, absolutely not. You know, there's no point. I mean, the whole thing with guitar, for instance. You know, I after that band finished, I just thought I need to get away from the guitar and go back to keyboard. You know, stuff that's less familiar with me, you know, for me, like sampling and stuff, as it was more so at the time, you know, just to kind of, rather than carrying on and joining another guitar band or playing guitar and stuff, it's again, it's like just in my nature to try and go forward and not spend too much time, you know.
That's Cindy by Micheal Valentine West, who is my guest this week.
Hello.
That was. I've not heard that one before.
No, it's quite old.
Yeah.
In you know, in my terms, it's like, yeah.
So that's what you said. That's what you did after Weirds War.
Yes, that was one of the first projects I threw myself into. I may have even performed that live a couple of times at the Jug, perhaps. But yeah, you know. It's an odd thing doing vocal music when it's just pretty much yourself, you know. So I kind of constructed a backing band and did some shows then for a while, and then stopped doing that.
So what, for the last sort of 20 years, it's just been you?
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's the way you prefer it. I suppose you see, you don't have to. If there's a gig, you don't have to check if everyone's free, do you?
Yes. Prefer it in some ways, yeah, because there's only you to rely on. It's if something doesn't work, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be kind of very conscious of those things. Other people can be perhaps sometimes less reliable. But even in saying that, I really have enjoyed over the time playing for other people as well, because it's a different discipline. You know, it's really good. It's like takes you out of your comfort zone. You know, if you think like, okay, I work on my own, the worst thing in the world is to like get up and do the same thing every day, which is easier to fall into if you're working on your own. Yeah. But if you're playing for somebody else, they say like, okay, here's some money. We want you to play this. You have no choice in the matter whether you like it or not. That's the way you have to play it. Yeah. And it's good for your ego. You know, it helps your ego not get too big. Yeah. You don't have to split the money 4 or 5 ways either, do you? That's great as well. Yeah. But you don't miss that, because like being in a band it's really like a gang, isn't it? And there's different personalities, and you know that can sort of sometimes work creatively, can't it? Oh, yeah. Or not. Or not or sometimes. Work against you. I mean, there was a point with the band where when it was great, it was when everybody trusted everybody. When, you know, so I'd come in with a song and I'd go, this is the idea, and you get these blank looks, and I go, no, stay with me here, and you do it. And they were like, okay, we understand now. And then, as time went on, you know, maybe some of the trust went out the window a bit, and you'd come up with an idea for something. And I remember once I was using a sequencer and a drum machine for a new track, and I brought it in. And the drummer was like, what do I play?
That's always an awkward moment when you bring a drum machine into a band rehearsal, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You're thinking, well, I'm not trying to replace anybody. It was just to take the sound somewhere else, so...
This is the way it is now. Get the kettle on.
Yeah, it was just like, the drummer was like, oh, I'm like, dude, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But, so we tried that once and never tried it again. It was like, nah, this ain't going to happen.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to another of your incarnations, which is Suck Susan.
Ah, yes.
So
Hip-hop.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what sort of what era was this?
That spanned about a while. This was probably 2012, I think it came out in. Yeah, it was just another thing that I had played around with years ago. I was really into DJ Crush and all the really early Mo-Wax music and stuff like that. And, when I was growing up, listening to a lot of hip-hop and electro and stuff, and I wanted to do something that was, reminded me of that. So, yeah, it was born.
So it's called Fantastic Damage. We have to have a parental guidance warning on this if there's any young children listening.
Oh, no, this one isn't the one.
Oh, this one, so the next one is, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah, sorry.
This is fine.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. So you can let the kids listen to this one. That's another Black Elvis from Micheal Valentine West, who's my guest this week. And before that, we had Fantastic Damage from Suck Susan. Also, Micheal Valentine West. Why do you do so many incarnations? There's about 7 or 8, isn't there? And sometimes you do them almost at the same time or overlapping.
Oh, yeah, everything's concurrent.
Is that just because it's different types, styles of music, or is it just because it's that's...
You throw... When I'm working... and exploring different possibilities for sound, music or whatever, sometimes you get an idea for a project, a theme, and you then think, okay, then I will put everything into that, and then it becomes like an art piece of work in itself. Not all that stuff actually suits my name sometimes, I feel, because I guess the stuff that I do for myself is bits and pieces of all the different things from what I've learned from doing all these other things all together in one. It's just fun, and also because if people don't know, they'll know now.
Yeah, they didn't know that it was all you.
Nah, I don't. This is something I learnt before as well with Weird's War, for instance. It's like people only give you credit sometimes for certain things, so sometimes it's better just to take your name off it.
Yeah, and it must take some time thinking up all the names.
There are folders full of names. There are folders full.
So I do that with club names. Sometimes you think of a name and then you write it down. So there's a big list of things that will come in handy sometime, and then you can sort of reuse and reinvent them, can't you?
Ah, that's right.
Yeah. So you've done some film scores as well, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah. It was quite a while ago since the last one. That actually got used, but mainly for short films. But a few years ago, I did have an experience doing a feature film score.
So, and how did that work out?
Ooh, potential lawsuits.
Oh.
Very little payment.
Yeah.
Very long hours.
Yeah.
And a bit of betrayal towards the end. In fact, the whole story of doing the soundtrack is actually more interesting than the film. I won't mention which film it is
because you make a film about that.
Yeah. The film did eventually come out.
So how does that work? Because I've often wondered, really, that you sort of, that obviously the director directs the film, and then you get a sort of cut with a dialogue on, and then do you get that, or do you get an idea of what sort of type of music they want?
In a sane world, yes. What happens is that the film is it gets shot. It's directed, obviously, shot, then edited, and then they start sending you scenes, parts where they'll mark out parts where they want music for or something for, and usually, as it would be sensible, give you some kind of an idea of what kind of music they'd like.
It's a lot easier in the silent era days where you have a pianist at the front when you're playing. It's like,
Yeah. But actually, in saying that, it is kind of like that. That's how I was scoring anyway.
Yeah.
I'd be like playing to the scene.
Yeah.
You sort of here to here, and you're going like, okay, then you've got 3 minutes there. So you're watching, and so you're making the ideas. You're playing along with the dialogue and the visuals as well. So that's how I write.
But it's so difficult because obviously the director's got sort of a noise in his head and the producer and all the other people around it, and then you come to it sort of fresh, don't you? And you've got to sort of try and fish out what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Do they give you guidance then, or
A good director would.
yeah? All right, all right. Let's not get into the litigation.
No,
of it,
no.
Are the short films easier then? Are they?
Well, it just takes less time.
Yeah.
I mean, it just takes less time. I mean, there was a couple of experiences I had where there was one short film. Looking back, I think she just needed cover because she wanted to use a song by a famous band and she wasn't sure she'd get clearance. So she said to me, can you do something like them? And I did it and stuff, and it was great. And then...
Just change it slightly.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But in the end, it didn't end up in the film because she got clearance. I mean, I still got paid for it.
Yeah.
And she used a very brief snippet of some of the music in the film for me. But, it was all right. But again, that's part of letting, keeping your ego in control rather than thinking, I'm a genius and I did this great piece of music. It's like, if they don't want it, or if they think it's wrong, you can disagree with them.
Yeah.
But it's their film,
Yeah. I suppose not everything works out, does it? And you're so prolific as well, I suppose you're going to use it somewhere.
Oh,
anyway.
well, this is it. There is, maybe this year the working title is If You Should Ever See Me Again. And there's about a third, if that, of the stuff I did from the soundtrack for the film that never got used.
Yeah.
There's hours. For an 84-minute film, I did hours and hours. It was hilarious. I was getting up at 6 in the morning to send stuff off, and then I'd be receiving the next scene on the same day, and they're saying they want 4 or 5 pieces of music a week, and you're just doing it all.
Yeah.
I got to know the guy at the 24-hour garage really well.
Yeah.
Because I was just over there for cigarettes and caffeine drinks. It was just
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
The music business runs on cigarettes and caffeine drinks.
Absolutely.
Or used to. Probably doesn't so much now. Can't imagine Ed Sheeran works that way. But, I've said the S word. So what, do you have a home studio then, I guess?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier now, isn't it, than, say, 20, 25 years ago?
On the one hand, yes, but you have to put the work in to know how everything works. I mean, there is the thing. You have to, these days, it's not enough just to, sketch out something and go, well, there's a great idea. You have to be your own producer, your own arranger, mixer, and sometimes mastering engineer.
Yeah.
And I've learnt a lot over the years, just by some of it by trial and error, some of it just by just reading and tutorials and stuff, because self-sufficiency.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it's like I've had stuff mastered by people and you've got it back, you thought, I'm not sure about that. But of course you can't argue because they've done it. So you develop your own, extra musical skills, as it were.
Yeah.
So it's not always the easiest thing to do. I mean, I have friends who... There was a friend of mine who... I remember hearing some things that he'd done, and I said, oh, that's good. When are you going to finish it? He goes, oh, it'll do.
Yeah.
And I never understood that. I mean, even if you were just doing it for fun, I never understood the idea that,
that's a horrible phrase, actually, it'll do.
Yeah, it'll do.
We've probably all used it at some point on some things, haven't we? But
do you know how many months it took me to master the Anal Teens? Mix and master.
Yeah.
And there's another Anal Teens album coming out this year as well.
Right, okay.
Just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
The Black Burger incident.
Yeah. So when's that going to be out?
April or May. I'm not sure of the order of what I'm releasing at the moment, but April or May.
Yeah.
And that's...
So is it all backing up all your music? And
I just need to get... there's so much stuff. There is another project that I was working on called Dot Wav Quartet, which was more jazz.
Yeah.
I say more jazz influenced. I refuse. I couldn't call myself a jazz musician.
No.
But it is jazz influenced. And there's about 6 of those. There's something else called discrete objects, which is just ambient stuff. There's so much.
Yeah.
There's a lot. And so this is why I need to start releasing stuff, because I'm sick of just going into the studio and going...
Yeah.
play that again.
Yeah.
Tweak that. Play and tweak.
You're a bit of a fan of analog recording as well, aren't you? You got you like old reel-to-reel tape machines.
Ooh, I love reel-to-reel machines.
They're fantastic, aren't they? I must admit. Yeah.
Love them. But not every single reel-to-reel machine was created equal, of course.
No.
But I can't remember what it was. I had some kind of revelation one night about sound and about formats. I mean, there was always this kind of running thing with friends of mine who have labels and release stuff on vinyl and stuff. And I was thinking, like, tape. Am I really into cassette tape? Am I really into... And then he was thinking about reel-to-reels. It's like, that's my ambition, to start releasing.
That was industry standard, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
A couple of decades ago.
Yes, yeah, it was indeed. And I just started reading up on, again, the internet is your friend, and then took my first dip into reel-to-reel fixer-uppering and bought a Tascam 32, which was brilliant until I blew the motor up.
Yeah.
Live and learn.
It's got to be fixable, though, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it really is. I mean, like...
that's the thing, things break and then people just sort of give them away or throw them away, don't they? But
well, that's it.
That's the beauty about that era of equipment, isn't it? That you can take the back off and fix it.
And you learn. I mean, I'm not a trained electrical engineer, but, again, you learn a lot and you stop being afraid of opening the box.
Yeah.
Same with computers. People think I'm really good with computers. I've just picked up a lot by trial and error. I remember the first time I fitted a hard drive into a computer and you open up the case and you look. And the first thing you realise is barely anything's there.
It's a huge box, isn't it? Yeah.
Big box with a couple of things. And you're like, okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same with reel-to-reels. You know where things are. You know what to look for. You know what to clean. You know what not to touch when it's plugged in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was I bought a Tandberg from somebody in Birmingham, and he turned up on the doorstep with it. I think he really needed the money, to be honest. Yeah. He was an Eastern European guy, and he just looked at me. He was like, "You want this?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
And gave him the money, and it was slow. And again, you just like unscrew the thing, download a manual, unscrew it, change the belts, lubricate, clean the heads.
That's the digital age working for the analog age, isn't it? That you can just go online and download the whole manual, whereas before it'd just be almost impossible, wouldn't it, to find a manual for a 30, 40-year-old tape player.
Well, that's it. I'm always astounded at people who, this will sound harsh, but people ask questions like, how do I do this or how do I do that? Because the first place I'm going is the internet to find out.
That's right, yeah.
And if I can't get an answer off the internet, then I'll ask somebody I know.
Yeah.
But, isn't there a site? It's a cheeky website that's called Let Me Google That For You.
Oh, right.
Have you ever heard of it?
No.
You've heard of it, yeah. You basically, when somebody goes, oh, how does this work or how can I do that? There's this thing where you kind of like send them a link to Let Me Google It For You, and it automatically opens it up. You have to see it. It types in your search for you, and then shows you the results of your search.
Okay.
And as a good friend of mine said, like, perhaps best to only use that with really good friends of yours. Otherwise, you might tick a few people off.
Yeah. Well, no, I've never heard that. You learn something every day, don't you? You learn one thing a day. The day's not wasted. That's what I always say.
I try to do that, really. Yeah. I hate wasting time.
No.
Hate it.
Well, that's painfully obvious, really. I can't imagine you sit around the house in your pyjamas wondering what to do.
No, but you see, that's part of the deal. Since you've known me, it's been part of the deal. It's like once you decide you're going to be a musician, artist, call it what you want, there's no point walking around telling people that you're an artist or whatever. If
I did that with Astronaut, though, to be fair.
I tried that as well when I was about 8.
Yeah. I've still not got round to it. I'm not going to get that call now, am I?
Probably not.
Should we listen to some more music? And we've got the next one is Quentin's Restraining Order. Now, this is from your latest incarnation, Anal Teens.
Yep, that just came out recently, and I was very happy with the response. The fact that people actually pay for things is great.
Because that's what you can do now as well, isn't it? You can.
Again, I mean, like I've had stuff out on other labels as well, but you start your own label. It's like a cottage industry. You get a Bandcamp page, a website, and try and promote it as much as you can.
Yeah.
And that's what you said you're doing, isn't it? And it's hard in one way. It's easy to do, but because there's so many people doing it, it's very easy for your stuff to get lost.
Yeah.
So like I say, the first few days, the sales were just stupid.
Yeah.
I was really happy. And some people paying double the price for it as well, which I've.
So if people like this, where can they download it?
UVG21, it's like the UVG212 on Bandcamp. If you Google UVG212, you should find the website and the Bandcamp page.
That's Dot for Fantasy, and that's from Twiggy and the K-Mesons, which is really Micheal Valentine West, isn't it? And before that, we had Quentin's Restraining Order from Anal Teens, which is also Micheal Valentine West, who is my guest this week.
Are you seeing a pattern here, everybody?
Yeah. No, it's going to be good. 2 hours of your music. Fantastic.
Just be thankful it's only 2 hours.
Yeah, no. It's going very well, isn't it? I'm really enjoying this.
Thank you.
It's good because, like, say, some people like you, Michael, and some other guests that have come in, I might have known them for 20 or 30 years, but I'd never sit down with you in a pub and talk for 2 hours about music, would I?
No, it's mainly because you don't like me that much.
I do see you walking out the door when you see me coming towards you. But it's just really interesting. It's great to see this spanning sort of 20 years or more. It's fascinating. But we're moving on. Although it's still going to be Micheal Valentine West. So you've got the next track we're going to play is Slow Math. So how did this come about?
Actually, the story was really strange about that. I got approached by somebody online who'd heard some of my stuff on SoundCloud. And he was talking about, that was it, he'd heard the Suck Susan album. And he thought it was great. And he had this great, amazing idea to do some performance called The Four Susans. So he saw the whole thing as serendipity. And I started writing a few tracks, mainly for that, in between doing everything else. And they were... I guess they were kind of jazz influenced, mainly because that's been in my head. That had been in my head for like about 5 years on and off, thinking like I want to do something with more chords, more complication, just mess about basically, and also being a really big Miles Davis fan. And so I'd done a few tracks for that. He disappeared completely. And along the same time, Anna Rath Records from Germany, they got in touch, and they said they were interested in doing an EP. And I was like, oh, great. And so they invited me over. I played at a festival for them. And then I finished off the EP, sent it to them. They said, OK, we think it's so good, we want to do it on vinyl instead. So go ahead and write the album. And so, that's how Code 17 Abstraction was born. And
that's the album this comes from, So should we listen to this then? Wow, I'm listening to that on headphones. It's just wild, isn't it?
Thank you.
If you're listening to this, try and put some headphones and turn it right up. It's incredible.
Yes,
that was Kim M, and that's Kim M from my guest this week, Micheal Valentine West, and before that we had Slow Math, the American version.
Yes, deliberate.
Yeah, deliberate. Yeah, that Kim M, that was really good.
Thanks.
Yeah. So there was a lot of stuff going on there, wasn't there?
Oh yeah. I believe there's even a sitar in there somewhere, and there's percussion, bell chains, sax, clarinet, drums, bass, and a ridiculous amount of editing.
Yeah, there's a lot of work in that, isn't there?
Yeah, but you see, that from what we were saying earlier on about the whole thing about the work that you put in. I could sit here and explain or why I did it or what it's supposed to do and all the logic behind it. That's not as important as somebody hearing it and just feeling it.
Well, I always say with music, it's noise out of speakers. So it doesn't matter what type of music it is, where it's come from, how it's made. It's just the feeling that the person listening to it gets, and that's what any musician's aiming towards, isn't it?
Yeah, we could all over intellectualize what we do, perhaps to the nth degree, but sometimes it's just something you just want to hear, and you go like, okay, that's good enough. And the fact that you smiled when you put the headphones on.
Well, that's it, because we were chatting, and then I put the headphones on for last sort of 35, 40 seconds, and it was, and it's, there you go. It was, it just make you smile.
Thank you very much.
So I can definitely definitely recommend listening to this on headphones.
Yeah, and again, big, very much gratitude to Anarat in Germany for giving me that opportunity, because they spent a load of money pressing up vinyl of that album, and they're just great. They're like family.
Yeah.
You know, they really made some really good friends out there in Mulheim Massive.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So how did they hear about you then?
I imagine just through SoundCloud, maybe. I think, yeah, they just got in touch and just said, hey, you know, you want to come over and play a festival? You want to do an EP? You want to do an album? And I'm like, yes.
So have you played over there a lot, or did you just...
A few times, yeah. A few times.
So what do you... Is it a keyboard and a computer? Or?
Well, it's mainly like laptop based. So I'll take my laptop. There'll be anything between 2 and 3 mini keyboards, and then you can then use like 2 separate controllers to control effects and stuff like that. And so yeah, it's basically that and the sound card. So
yeah. Oh, okay. So it's travelling fairly light.
You'd think
Yeah.
it sounds light, but it's not. And
No.
So it depends on the size. I mean, there's a Korg MS-20 replica that I've got, and that's really big, but it's a good keyboard as well.
Yeah.
So I don't tend to take that abroad as much.
No. That's a lot nice. I was going to say it's nice and easy travelling within Europe, but with Brexit it won't be. You'll be filling in carnets and all that sort of stuff again, which a lot of people have forgotten about, really. But
You know what? It's bad enough being a musician.
Yeah.
You know, it's bad enough. I missed a flight. I was playing at a festival in Germany, as it happens, and I missed a flight because despite x-raying my stuff and it coming up fine, she then decided to unpack my bag and test everything for drugs.
Yeah.
Even the tips of leads she tested for drugs.
Uh-huh.
She tested everything.
I'm not an expert on drugs. What drugs would you use the tips of leads for?
I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe you'd be...
Yeah, okay.
I have no idea. But I stood there and I'm thinking, oh, you've just x-rayed it. And so we had to wait another 10 minutes for the results to come up, which were all clear, of course.
Yeah.
And then she said, right, I'm going to, repack your bag and then I'm going to x-ray it again.
Yeah. Must have been a slow day.
Yes, I reckon.
Maybe she liked chatting to you.
I really doubt that.
So we're going to move on to some more Micheal Valentine West.
Hey!
And hey, Another Beginning.
That's the one.
So when was this released?
This isn't out yet.
Oh, it's not.
There's a fair bit of stuff that isn't out. That's not out yet. This is going to be from an album called If You Should Ever See Me Again.
Okay.
Which most of the music is from the film score that I did.
Yeah. That's I Can't Read from Micheal Valentine West, who's my guest this week, and before that, Another Beginning. Which Another Beginning, that was was that the intro to, or the start to a film score you were working on? It is very filmic, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah. It was one of many.
One of many. Is that why it's Another Beginning?
Yeah, that's why it's called Another Beginning. Yet another and another and another.
It made me want to go out and shoot a film, to be honest, because you were describing the scene that was for, and it was you were very evocative of that.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
That was the idea for it, and the idea behind some of the notes as well was, again, to produce a kind of theme which could be used throughout the film. But hey ho,
These things don't always work out, do they?
hell no.
No. And what I Can't Read, what was that from?
I'm not sure. There's another album perhaps to come for Anarat, which is tentatively titled Pissing on Infinite Mass.
Yeah.
And it may end up on there or on something else. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of collating the tracks and ideas for that piece of work.
Is that linked into the math theme? We were talking about physics, weren't we, while some of those were playing?
Yeah, I had things like pissing on infinite mass and the whole idea of impossible geometry.
Yeah.
And interdimensional mathematics. It's all, stuff I read to just...
Yeah?
I just read it to prove how stupid I am.
Well, God,
I don't understand it.
So what's that, interdimensional...
mathematics.
Oh, right, okay. So what's that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, like, well, in the respect that you get like what do they call them, 4-dimensional hypercube, for instance.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Have you seen one?
No.
Well, because they don't literally exist.
No. Oh, is that a trick question?
Well, it wasn't actually, but it's when you look at like how they map it out about how this is how it would possibly appear to us.
Yeah.
We could see it, but then of course it's just stuff I do in between making music. You know, just go on about like, okay, how many dimensions have we got? I can tell you, apparently there was a big argument before they thought there was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I think the jury's still out whether it's 10 or 11 dimensions.
Wow. Do you know what they are?
Yes, I do.
Good. Okay, then, and moving on.
I do. They go from 1 to 10 or 11.
Oh, fantastic.
Sorry.
That's a whole other show, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I find it's fascinating, all that sort of stuff, and, you know, how much we know and how much we don't know. But back to the music, I think. So we're going to play Samba next.
Yes.
So is there a story behind that? What's that from?
It's part of a body of work called Sub-Low or Low. And despite it sounding very, very, very digital and electronic, it actually has its roots, again, mathematically in kind of like, jazz improvisation.
Yeah.
In the way the rhythms keep changing and stuff, and chordally. And also there was exploring ideas between how certain frequencies affect the individual. So, and getting into Ornette Coleman and what else? Something that he said, which was try to aspire to something more than what you just inherited. So it was the idea of just pushing a boundary all the way through.
Yeah.
And I think I've always been obsessed with sine waves because it's just pure sound. And the idea of reducing a musical idea to a sine wave and a click for rhythm, that's just something I've been for, at least a decade. I've been obsessed with doing that. And this is just one of the tracks.
That's Hiromi Restraint, and before that, Samba. Hiromi Restraint by Lower Third, and Samba was by Micheal Valentine West, who's still my guest this week. Sounds great. Like I said, I've been listening to the back end of these on headphones. Because we're sadly chatting, aren't we, in between the tracks? But I would recommend, again, really turn it up loud and try and listen on headphones or put it through a big system, because they sound incredible. So what's that Lower Third then? Was that something you did? Is that concurrent or?
That's not kind of. I can always go back to it, but again, that was around. I had the Twiggy And The K-Mesons album, which I did, and the idea behind that was take a being whose thought processes and articulations were in default context, so it's very blunt, lyrically, very direct to the point. And for the most part, there's no melody. There's no vocal melody on the Twiggy album, but the words, to me, are mostly important. On the Hiromi Restraint album by Lower Third, it was just... There's this great kind of like singing plugin that's Japanese, and it comes with one default word. You can type other words into it, but it plays them by syllable. So there's one word, and it has about 3 or 4 syllables on it. And when you play a melody, it kind of sings to you. And so I thought, wouldn't it be a great idea to produce a really beautiful melodic album that sings, but for the most part, lyrically, it means nothing. All the songs are based on one word, being repeated syllable-wise over and over again.
Yeah.
And also the idea was just like, a kind of Japanese post-electronic psychedelic band. I just thought it was a fun idea, to be honest.
No, good. Yes. So we're going to move on now. Pop Goes the Skin. What's Micheal Valentine West? This was under that name.
Yeah.
So when was this from?
About 2009, but it ended up coming out in 2012 on Pucker Up, on Bedroom Research Records. I was playing for Brian Duffy at the time, Modified Toy Orchestra.
Yeah. That's a great idea, isn't he? Didn't he play at the Town Hall or what, a couple of years ago? Probably
did, they did.
They did, yeah.
But he had a Casio SA1, which was circuit bent, and I just borrowed it for the night, took it home, just recorded about 45 minutes to an hour's worth of me just playing it, and then took it back and then edited the track. And
So what's that? What's Casio SA1?
It's a toy keyboard. It's basically a small little toy keyboard that has been modified or circuit bent, as they call it.
Yeah.
So they just stick extra resistors on here, potentiometers and stuff. So
That's a great phrase, isn't it? Circuit bent.
Yeah, you're basically tricking it into doing things that it wasn't meant to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure how did Brian describe it? Revealing the instrument's hidden potential. There you go.
That's right. Yeah, that's good when you say that, because you can, you take something which is fairly basic, and then you just. I love that idea of modifying it and then unleashing, its true potential.
It can be something else altogether. But
yeah.
I think for the modified toy orchestra, for the most point, the instruments were used in a mostly very traditional musical way, where musically this is very much the SA1. Making the noise without any edits, apart from the arrangement edit, of course.
That's Blood Sacrifice from Micheal Valentine West, and we're still chatting about your career in music over the last. So when did you start? I probably first met you about 1990, 89, 90, something like that. Which is horribly nearly 30 years ago.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
You perhaps. It was. I don't know. I don't know what year, but.
Well, did you start when you were a kid? Did you start making music, or did it come later to you?
A bit later to it, probably when I was about 16.
Yeah.
It was like, what do you want if you do well in your exams?
Yeah.
Guitar.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to learn how to do James Brown style chicken scratch. I was obsessed by it because my dad had a James Brown. It's such a cliche. James Brown live at the Apollo and double album. And when I was about 4, I can remember being about 3-4 years old, and Dad singing along to it and getting me and my sister to sing along to the bits and stuff. And that kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
But the guitar and that live album's just phenomenal. And then, of course, at some point, you discover. Other guitarists like Hendrix, and then P-Funk, like Funkadelic, Parliament and all that. And then, my sister was a big fan of stuff like David Bowie. She got me to Bowie, Sylvian, and, I had friends at school who were kind of giving me things, So you just was an avid listener.
Yeah.
And just wanted to create the sounds, and I would spend a lot of time listening to the way things were made, or where I could place them in my head and then try and recreate it. But
yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's interesting the sort of influence of when you were a kid and the sort of music that was around the house, because it all goes in there, doesn't it? And
absolutely
gets mashed up and then comes out again.
Yeah, I mean, the honest thing is, like, my dad obviously had a load of, well, I say obviously, but he's Jamaican by birth.
Yeah.
So he had a whole load of reggae and blue beat and ska records.
Yeah.
And initially I wasn't, I can remember being up to about age of 8, 9, convincing myself that I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
And then at some point you turn 11 and you go through your dad's records and you put one on. And you go, actually, and then another and another and another, and you're like, yeah, I'm on board.
Well, I suppose you're supposed to rebel against, what your parents like, but unfortunately, if your parents have got a great record collection, it's a real problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I think perhaps that's what I was trying to do. I think maybe, but you couldn't resist it.
No, I've got what I like to think is a great record, spanning going back jazz, all the way through, reggae, punk, indie, and everything. But certainly my son's turned against that, and he's into grime, which annoyingly for him, which I'm starting to get into, which is really annoying because that's not supposed to happen, is it?
Oh, it can happen, and you know what? There's some good stuff. There's some really good grime. There's some awful grime. There is stuff that actually aspires to be bigger than where it started, and I really enjoy listening to those things of all genres. Doesn't matter what it is.
I embarrassed my son because Merkage Dave was playing down the Hare and Hounds in King's Heath. I said, "Do you want to come up and watch it with me?" That's just can't imagine a worse sentence to come out of my mouth.
Like,
yeah, come with me, come with your dad, and let's go to But no, there are some good stuff. JK's really good as well. I like JK from Small Heath. So there's some good stuff about. So we go back to you anyway. That's enough talking about other people, Michael.
Yeah, all about me.
Yeah. So we're going to play another track. Don't Lose Yourself, another Micheal Valentine West track.
Yeah.
That's Don't Lose Yourself from Micheal Valentine West, my guest this week. And sadly, our time is up.
Oh,
We're just going to finish on a couple more Micheal Valentine West tracks. But it's been fascinating talking to you.
Thanks, David.
As I say, all the years I've known you, this is the first time we've actually sat down for 2 hours and played music and talked about music, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we must do it again sometime. But that's a fascinating body of work there, I think. It's and as I say, I know I've said it before, but really just crank that up loud because it sounds fantastic. But thanks very much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
No, and thank you for. Well, we've been talking about it for a while, haven't we? But
yeah, and then I just basically bullied you into it one night. You remember?
It was a cryptic message, which
me.
Yeah, I didn't know what to. So
hey, you got. I thought
you wanted to come around for a meal or something.
So. No, you got there in the end.
I got there in the end. Yeah. I don't take hints. This is So, but it all worked out fine, and it's been a great show. Thank you ever so much, and good luck for the future.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.